How to stay safe as a woman in India. It is safe for Western women to travel in India, but doing so requires some extra precautions, especially if you're a solo female traveler. Here are our top tips for women traveling in India. Be assertive. As a woman, how you carry yourself will have a big impact on your experience in India. People will be constantly trying to sell you something or take you somewhere, and random men may approach you on the street. Don't be afraid to say no and to say it loudly and assertively. It might feel uncomfortable, but if you act confident, you'll be less likely to have a problem. If someone really won't leave you alone, don't be afraid at all to be rude. And after that, if they continue to bother you, don't be afraid to ask for help. Dress appropriately. India is a very conservative country, especially outside the major cities, and Indian women typically dress very modestly, even in the heat. Honestly, Western women attract unwanted attention no matter what they're wearing, but it will be much worse if you're wearing revealing clothing. Keep your shoulders, cleavage, midriffs, and thighs covered, and avoid tight-fitting clothes like leggings unless you're wearing something over them. Standards are a bit more lax in the larger cities, tourist hotspots, and beach towns, but it's always better to err on the side of modesty. Consider pretending to be married. If you're married, you'll have an easier time visiting India as a female. And if you're not, well, it doesn't actually hurt to pretend. Wearing a wedding ring and telling men who bother you that you're on your way to meet your husband is a great way to avoid unwanted attention. This might not put an end to all the harassment, but it can certainly help. Don't be overly friendly. For me, this is really a hard one, because you don't want to be cold to people for no reason, especially if they're genuinely kind, and almost all Indians are. But when unknown men approach you, or even when you interact with drivers or hotel staff, acting overly friendly towards them can easily send the wrong signal. A friend of mine was traveling to India and was overly friendly with a group of men who then found out where they were staying and tried to enter their hotel room. It just is not worth the risk. Don't walk around alone at night. Indian women don't often go out at night, and the roads in many towns are very poorly lit. When you're out in the evening, go with a group if at all possible, and consider using transportation instead of walking. Plan ahead. With all the resources available online now, it's easier than ever to make the best choices about things like hotels, tours, and drivers. Do some good research ahead of time and avoid places that have lots of negative reviews. Better yet, get recommendations from local people you trust or friends who've actually been there. Know where you're going. Tourists who are lost practically have a target on their back, especially women. India is very difficult to navigate, but try to have an idea of where you're going before you head out. And even if you end up getting totally lost, act confident, pretend you know where you're going, and then duck into a reputable hotel and ask for help. Don't arrive at night. Whether you're flying into India on an international flight, or taking a bus or a train to the next town, try to time your travels so you get there during the day. Arriving in an unfamiliar place at night makes it harder to find out where you're going. If your flight ends up getting you there at night, try booking an airport hotel to minimize the complications. Arrange to be picked up. Most hotels offer a pickup service from the airport, bus stop, or train station. While it's often a bit more expensive than getting a taxi or auto rickshaw when you arrive, it's a safer, more convenient option, especially for female travelers. Book an upper berth on the train. Train travel is one of the most comfortable and convenient ways to get around India, and it's always an adventure. It's definitely safe for women to take the train solo, but do try to get the uppermost bunk. You'll have more privacy and be farther out of reach, so much less likely to experience any trouble. Find some allies. This is especially useful when you're on a public transportation or in a public place. Start talking to women or families, and you'll not only make new friends, you'll also have people who will help watch out for you. If you're someplace like a bus or a train station and you find yourself getting overwhelmed by unwanted attention, go and sit right next to a family or a group of women. Your suitors will probably back off. If they don't be afraid to go to the ticket counter or find an officer and ask for help. Let people know where you're going. This one is pretty common sense, but it's always smart to let people know where you're going. Keep your family back at home updated on what town you're in and where you're staying. And when you meet people at your hotel or elsewhere, let them know when you're taking day trips or just going out. Get a local SIM card. These days, carrying a smartphone alleviates so many travel difficulties, and it can really be helpful in keeping you safe. Buy a SIM card and a data package when you arrive in India, and you'll be able to figure out where you're going, easily contact people, and in some cities, even call an Uber. Don't be afraid to ask for help. For me, this is the number one most important point. If you're ever feeling afraid or concerned, don't be afraid to ask for help. The places I would recommend are reputable hotels, busy restaurants, and well-maintained shops. They can always call a taxi for you and take you back to your hotel.